Hi friends, this is Jennifer Belair with Open Hearts Club, and this week's topic of discussion is going to be rooted in love. So this is a huge undertaking, and it's not one that I claim to be an expert at, but it's the expression, the feeling, the experience that I am most connected to in this moment. So I wanted to take some time to discuss it, and I actually wrote a really beautiful quote just the other day, and I try to collect as many quotes as I can, especially the ones that lift me up and inspire me, and this one is by the poet Hafiz, and it's part of a poem. I'll read the whole thing. The subject tonight is love, and for tomorrow night as well. As a matter of fact, I know of no better topic for us to discuss until we all die. So love has been the guiding force for humans, for life, for consciousness, for eons, time immemorial, right? So this is a very big topic, and one that I just love. Like I feel that it's one of the most important things that we can experience in our lives, and there's many different types of love. There's many different spiritual texts relating to love. There's many different religious point of views on love, and so I'm just talking about it from my own personal experience and just thinking about it. How has love guided me in this life that I'm living, in this space that I have created for myself? So for me, love is interesting to ponder, and it's something that has really been shaking and waking me up over the past maybe 5-6 years. And this notion of love is so great and so beautiful and so profound that it's definitely not an easy topic to discuss. But I know in my heart, as this person who's creating this space called Open Hearts Club, that when the heart softens and allows more love to shine and to grow, there's something very beautiful that happens. Like sometimes thinking back about my life, I imagine this heart as like a very tight, very constricted vessel, and that there's all these like an exoskeleton that's just so hard and doesn't want to let any light in or any light out. But over the years, through many different experiences, this heart has been blossoming and blooming and just flowering like the most beautiful flower that I've ever experienced. And so at this age of 34, I am just so in love with life and so in love with myself, so in love with everything that's ever happened to me, because everything that's happened has gotten me to where I am. And so I don't always operate in this very high vibe state of like everything is love and it's just so beautiful. That's not an easy place to be, but the more that we can cultivate that spirit, that greatness, that simplicity of love, chances are the happier and more joyful we're going to be able to show up in our world, in our experience, and we're going to be able to ripple that love, that high frequency, that vibration out into all aspects of our life. So these are things that I'm learning on my journey. As you probably see through my Instagram and through other outlets, I really love to work with cacao, which is a medicine of the heart. I discovered cacao, I guess 2 years ago now, and it's been one of the biggest heart expansive experiences of my life, and it's really softened me into becoming this more heart-centric person. And so a lot of the spiritual texts I'm reading outside of my experiences with cacao are related to this notion that there's only two great emotions in the human experience, and one of them is love, the other one is fear. And so that's kind of a strange and etheric thing to conceptualize, but if you categorize your emotions and feelings in that way, you start to see it. You start to understand, like, wow, I'm really operating out of fear. I'm worrying, I'm anxious, I'm unsure, I'm scared, I'm this, I'm that. So those are all fear-based emotions. And I think in my mind, I can see it almost as fear, neutrality, and then love. So I think that's the two places that I'm trying my hardest to live in and to hang out in, because I think in the space of neutrality, we're not attracting anything, we're not putting anything out there, we're just kind of present with the moment and not really having an emotional reaction to the experiences that are happening in our lives. But when we operate from a state and a space of love, we are magnetizing good things to us. We are putting really beautiful energy out there. And so for me, love has been a very important messenger. And like I said, over the past 5 years, it's been one of the strongest medicines that I've received in my lifetime. And as someone who has struggled with more anxious or depressive things, living in that fear mindset, love was hard to find sometimes. I couldn't wake up from that state of fear to see the love. So for me, it's all about cultivating a practice that is genuine, that is pure, that is rooted in navigating the neutral mind or positive visualizations. I recently heard something from Jaidev, who said that all day we can basically create negative visualizations, and that just clicked in such a big way in my mind that I thought, wow, we are creating negative visualizations when we worry, when we're anxious, when we're letting this more fear-based mentality take over who we are and take over that deep internal knowing presence of love. And so it's a very big feeling, a very big thing to contemplate and to understand and to step into. But when we are able to cultivate the awareness, and that's where it all starts from, we have to grow from a seed and grow up into the beautiful tree. So if we imagine our roots, at the roots we have awareness, and the awareness spreads throughout many different parts of our lives and many different experiences of our lives. So it's all about how can we cultivate and bring more awareness into our lives, hanging out in that neutral middle state before we go teetering over to the fear state. That can sometimes take us in a downward spiral, which is something that I've talked about in a couple other videos. So just being able to navigate into that very neutral mindset, nourishing the roots of awareness. And how do we do that? We have to do that through our actions. So the things that we decide to do in a day, we have to do that through our thoughts. So what kind of thoughts are we having on a day-to-day basis? What kind of things are we saying with our mouths, with our words, with our utterances that we create into the world? Those are all simple things that we all essentially have a lot of control over. So how do I nourish my roots? How do I cultivate greater awareness in my life? And so I've talked about this a few times. Things for myself are walking in nature, are meditating, are just practicing being present, are essentially noticing the feeling that's coming through the body. So what is the feeling that I'm experiencing when my ego steps in and it's trying to protect me? That's typically the feeling of I need to fight back, I need to defend myself, and that's not always necessary, right? We don't always need to fight, we don't need to argue, we don't need to say things that we don't mean and that might hurt somebody. So how can we step into ourselves and practice awareness to be that conscious observer and to essentially listen to ourselves and feel the feelings that are coming through us without riding them? So it's almost like there's this beautiful river, and the river has all these different thought forms that are passing through. These thoughts then tend to create emotions, which is a physiological, hormonal experience within the body. So if you've noticed, right, when you are in a downward spiral, you're just going down and your thoughts are going to keep selling yourself on that feeling. It's like, yeah, I'm sad. Yeah, sure, I'm really sad right now. And let's just keep going down that spiral because it's like creating like all these different exchanges within the body. And so it's up to us to kind of peek our heads out of this river and latch onto something good, latch onto something neutral, and to know that it's not something that we have to experience. And this has been a state of mind for myself for many years, where I was essentially stuck and caught in my own mental prison of just latching onto the worst possible thoughts I could think of. And a lot of that is being worked through, a lot of that is being uncovered, a lot of that the light is shining, like a big lighthouse light is shining on the darkness saying, hey, it's okay, I love you, you're gonna make it through this. Wow, like look how much you've grown through your experiences. I'm sorry that happened to you. How can I make you feel more nurtured? And so if you're someone who's on the wellness path, you might be seeing a lot of work around the shadow, around inner child work. And the reason these are important is because we essentially have this pure, beautiful, loving-hearted inner child inside of us that essentially wants love. And so when we're able to give our inner child, ourselves, this very deep inner being, that nurturing and that love that maybe we didn't get through an earlier relationship or through our parents or through our grandparents or whoever it may be, we can give that to ourselves today. And that's the greatest vehicle for change, is to essentially create new neural pathways that say, I'm safe, I love you. I'm here for you. You're amazing. Thank you so much for the hard work that you've been doing. Thank you so much for not reacting yesterday. Wow, you did a really great job. So it's like, how can we congratulate? How can we lift? How can we lift and shift ourselves into this greater sense of being, into this vessel of love, and to not let ourselves get too bogged down by life, because life is synonymous with suffering, right? We cannot have happiness without suffering. I'm reading the book No Mud, No Lotus by Thich Nhat Hanh, and he talks a lot about this idea that one cannot exist without the other. So we always know suffering will be there. It's not going to be an easy thing, but if we know that because of suffering we can experience happiness, then we know that there's this harmony that can be created. So how do we focus on the happiness, and how do we thank the suffering? Right? It might not seem intuitive to be like, hey, suffering, thank you so much, you served me really great. But it's kind of the best medicine that we can give ourselves. How can we self-soothe? How can we talk to ourselves? How can we talk to this beautiful, innocent inner child that maybe needs some healing, maybe needs some reassurance? And that's why there's really wonderful resources out there that can help us to lift and shift out of our reality, to give us a greater chance to feel more joy, to feel more love, to feel more happiness. And I think that's definitely one of the best medicines, that we can become aware enough to realize, what is my current emotional state? Am I getting swept away by these emotions or these feelings or these thoughts? Or am I going to choose to use them as the fertilizer to make new things grow? So another really cool thing that Jai Dev said in a YouTube video that I was watching was that negative or difficult, right? We can have different labels for these things. So difficult experiences essentially are the energy of life hoping to open up our hearts, allowing us to meet our true reality, our true nature, and that all emotion is energy in motion, endeavoring to become love. All rivers flow into the same ocean, experiencing the full spectrum. So if we see our emotion as energy in motion, which is also something that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, is this notion that like our thoughts create our reality. So if we're sitting around thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, that's all we're going to be able to see. We're creating such a limited scope that we're not even able to see the whole expansiveness of ourselves, of our true potential, of our true inner light, of our true growth, because we are essentially caging ourselves in, we're boxing ourselves in, we're creating our reality based on this this constant looping of thoughts. So our personality, our thoughts become our emotions, right? So thoughts equal emotion. I think I'm bad, I think I'm bad, I think I'm bad, I feel bad, I feel bad, I feel bad. That continuation of thoughts is going to create our personality. So our personality, as Joe Dispenza says, creates our personal reality. So if we can start by going back to the very basics, the very first space of being a conscious observer of the thoughts, and if we look into the thought space and we're like, wow, I'm having a lot of difficult thoughts today, I must need some nurturing, I must need some care, I must need a break, I must need to be in nature, I must need to do the things from my personal toolbox that are going to lift and shift me into a new dimension, into a new direction, into a new reality. So you can think about these actions however you like. I have many different labels and ways that I like to view it, because I'm exposing myself to lots of different thinkers and leaders and scientists and spiritual leaders in this spectrum of thinking about love. So it's pretty amazing. Like as someone who is a first experiencer of this phenomena, I believe it and I trust it, and I know that when I show up for myself and when I show up for my vessel, it's a little sunny, when I show up for my vessel in this state of love and this state of gratitude, I can guarantee that my day is going to be so much more beautiful. And I know that I helped to cultivate that. I know that I helped to create it. I know that I'm in charge of my reality based on the thoughts that I think. And a lot of times I think they say we have like, I can't even remember the number, so I don't want to mislead anyone, but it's like thousands upon thousands of thoughts per day. And so if there's ways that we can be more conscious with our thoughts we're going to affect our subconscious programming, the subconsciousness of how we actually show up, the conscious self versus the subconscious. And to me, that's really exciting. And so I want to encourage you to plant some seeds of love, to do a little bit of personal introspection, to think about yourself in a new light. What do you love about yourself? What do you love about your relationships? What do you love about your parents, or the way you were born, or this beautiful planet, or the things that you've done? Those are all important experiences. And like the Jaidev quote I said, is that these difficult or negative energies of life are here to open up our hearts. So if we can pay gratitude to those most difficult experiences. I know a lot of us have lost important, beautiful people in our lives. Some of us have suffered heartbreak. Some of us have just gone through unexplainable, terrible, terrible things, and we've all been there. We have all experienced it. The fear that is there is the universal experience of fear, of pain, right? We are humans. We are here. We are suffering, and life is not always difficult, but we are also love. And so if we can shift the focus back to love and think about the most beautiful, the most joyful, the most expansive moments in our lives, and if we can bring that into everyday experiences as often as we are able, we're going to definitely be lifting and shifting ourselves into this greater sense of awareness, this greater sense of appreciation for this incredible life, just to be in a body, to smile, to have arms and legs and all this beautifulness, to express ourselves and to dance and to make love and to hold hands and to look someone in the eyes and to smile at someone and say, hi, thank you, wow, how are you doing today? Like, these are all just such phenomenal things that I feel so very blessed to experience in this lifetime. And I'm learning to thank those hard experiences, to thank those difficult things that my soul had to experience in this lifetime to become me. You know, like, I've gone through my own set of experiences, and they haven't been easy, right? I don't think anybody's has, but now I've learned to kind of smile upon them and to thank them. And I've even done some different ceremonial things where I've essentially said, thank you, I learned from you. Wow, that was hard, but thank you. Like, I grew into the woman, to the person I am today because of those experiences. And if you learn to shift that negativity of the past into something more positive, something more uplifting, you're going to show up in such a different way. And that's my blessing and my wish and my hope for you. Pardon me. That's my blessing and my wish and my hope for you, is that you can learn to take those difficult experiences from your life and to make something out of them, to sit silently with them, and maybe even reflect on a piece of paper, like, wow, these 3 things that happened in my life shook me so hard, and had so much fear, and I was so scared, and I want to hug that inner child. I want to hug that person at that moment in time who went through this very difficult experience. And so a visualization that I like to do essentially is I'll close my eyes and drop into a more meditative state, but essentially I'll imagine myself at different ages of my life, and especially the difficult time period. So I'll see myself, many of me, in different ages, and I will just see myself in my highest self, my highest form, my most loving self, right? And I'll go up to those individual persons, those individual avatars of myself, and I will hug them, and I will just give them all the love that I can generate, and just feelings of warmth, feeling of goodness. And that's a practice that has really changed and shifted how I see myself showing up. And so there's many different vehicles, there's many different ways that we can really shift ourselves and lift ourselves, and it's up to us. We can count on the people around us. We can think about who do we hold closest in our hearts. We can think about therapists, we can think about hypnotists, we can do all these different vessels and spaces to get there. My personal approach is doing self-hypnosis through To Be Magnetic. I like to do Joe Dispenza meditations. Those have been one of the most shifting experiences of my life. I like to be very selective about who I hang out with and who I give my energy to. I try to be intentional and aware as often as I can, and I'm not the greatest at it. It's really, really hard sometimes. So I have to be very conscious, very aware, and say, okay, I'm about to exchange energies with someone. How am I going to show up for them, and how do I feel about them? Is there something that needs to be worked out? So that's kind of my own personal toolbox. I've mentioned before yoga and running and being in the body and getting out of the mind, but also just mentally working on those memories. So our memory is malleable. We all know about neuroplasticity by now. We know that our neurons that fire together wire together, and so if we're able to think about our memories and reshape them, and that's why I love the 2B magnetic work, is because it's allowed me space and time to really shift some of those old experiences. So if you're curious about 2B magnetic, feel free to reach out to check them out. They do have a free clarity exercise that I'd be happy to share with you. And my way is not the only way. There's many, many different ways, but I hope this video encourages you and inspires you in some way to think about where you're at, to think, are you leaning closer to love? Are you leaning closer to fear? And how can you step closer into the love spectrum? And how can you thank and be blessed by your past experiences that maybe created this fearful state? And also just hugging, connecting, and deeply loving your inner child, this sweet, innocent child that only wants love from you. So that's my medicine today that I can share with you related to the concept of love, how to cultivate more love, how to experience more love. And that's my only wish for myself in this lifetime, is to be this never-ending vessel of love, and to show up as often as I can in a state of gratitude, in a state of love. And that's my sincere wish for you today too. So thank you so much for watching. I again will link to the 2B magnetic clarity exercise in case it inspires or interests you. And I'm wishing you the most beautiful, love-filled day today. And if anyone hasn't told you today, they love you, I love you. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I'll see you next week.